Hi everyone, my name is Carla and this is my first attempt at starting a YouTube channel. I am a comparative literature student studying at university. I thought I would start this channel just to be able to document what I'm reading and keep a bit of a diary. So yeah, I thought for this first video, rather than giving a whole load of background about my life, which is not going to be very interesting for anyone, I would just dive right into my TBR list. For this video, I have compiled a stack of books that I already own that are on my TBR list, which I will be placing somewhere over here. And then I'll also be going through books that I don't yet own but have my eye on. So yeah, as I'm going through, if there's any books that you're like, oh my gosh, you have to read, please comment below what I should be prioritizing. I had a really good summer of reading. I've read so many 5-star books, discovered so many new favorite series. For context as well, I did just finish reading the entire ACOTAR series and I read it in about a week because it was just that good. But I am a little bit concerned as well that it's going to send me into a book hangover, because obviously now I need to try and find something to meet that standard, something as good as ACOTAR, which is a really tall task. So yeah, fingers crossed for this video. So yeah, let's get started. So the first book that I'm going to talk about in this video is Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. It's the third book in the Dark Artifices series, which is part of the Shadowhunter world. I am obsessed with the whole entire Shadowhunter universe. I finished reading The Infernal Devices earlier in the summer, and then a few years ago, or actually when I was like 14, so a good few years ago, I read The Mortal Instruments. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to get through the universe, and I was really enjoying the Dark Artifices as well, but the first two books were just so long that it became a little bit draining, so I did need to take some time out, and I actually took a break from the series. So one of my priorities is definitely to get back in and finish this, because I do know that I'm going to like it. The second book honestly ended on such a punch to the gut, so I'm also a little bit nervous to go into this because I think it's going to be really sad and upsetting. And I have heard people say, actually with this book, that sometimes they just try to block it out because it's, I don't know, Cassandra Clare doesn't like giving us very happy endings. It's always very bittersweet. So I'm excited, I'm also a little bit nervous, but yeah. So Queen of Air and Darkness. The next book that I actually have physically is One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. Now, I have heard very mixed reviews about this book. I did not like the Atlas 6, and I didn't read the second book. I only read the first one, and it was enough for me to know that I wasn't gonna want to keep going with the series. So I just thought I would give Olivia Blake another chance, because maybe the Atlas 6 wasn't my thing, and I know for some other people they also didn't like the Atlas 6 and then they did really like One for My Enemy. I think the fact that it's supposed to be a bit of a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in New York amongst witches, kind of your urban fantasy retelling of Romeo and Juliet, sounds promising to me, because I love anything that's a Romeo and Juliet retelling. And also the cover art inside is just so pretty, and I don't know, even the hardback, like, it's all just so beautiful. So I do think I will give this a chance, and I'm hoping that I will like it. I really am. So we'll see what happens. And then these two books I bought together. It was a spontaneous buy. I saw the second book in the series out on a table in Waterstones first, and I thought, oh my gosh, that looks so nice. I love the cover, I love the size of the book. So then when I realized that it was actually the second book, I went ahead and bought the first one as well. But this is A Broken Blade, and it's the Halfling Saga. At the time, I hadn't yet read ACOTAR, and I was looking for something that would give me the feel of the Folk of the Air trilogy by Holly Black. I love that series so much, and all of the fae and everything like that. So I have high expectations for this. It's about, from what I've understood, it's about an assassin to the king, and she's half fae, and there's like discrimination against fae and half fae. So yeah, I'm expecting a lot of political intrigue mixed with fantasy. And yeah, I have high hopes for this as well. I hope that it's good. Because honestly, the idea of starting another series is a little bit exhausting. I'm trying to tie up loose ends, read standalones, finish up series, and all of that. So hopefully it's gripping. So the next book is Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. I actually did start reading this book and I DNF'd it, but I'll explain. I really loved These Violent Delights, which is Chloe Gong's Romeo and Juliet retelling set in 1920s Shanghai. There's a bit of a theme here. Like I said, I really do like the whole Romeo and Juliet retelling thing. But I was thinking about what didn't grab me about this book the first time I tried reading it. And I think Romeo and Juliet is such an iconic play. And for me, I know it so well because I acted in a high school version of it when I was at school. And when I was reading These Violent Delights, I was able to underline nods, if not directly to specific lines, to certain characters. And the way that Chloe Gong integrated Romeo and Juliet into These Violent Delights honestly deserves its own YouTube video, and I probably will make it. But overall, I'm just finding it a little bit slow-paced. I am definitely going to get back into this because, like I said, I really love the setting. I love the world. I love Chloe Gong's writing. Chloe Gong's writing style is just stunning. I also love anything that's set in Shanghai. I think Shanghai is such an interesting city, especially in the 20s and 30s in the 20th century. There was just so much going on. There were so many countries there all at the same time, so many different influences. You had the nationalists, the communists. I don't know how to describe it, but there's a certain way that Chloe Gong writes about Shanghai, and that actually quite a lot of authors write about Shanghai when they do. That just makes you feel as though Shanghai is one of the characters itself, that whatever story is being told couldn't be told in another city. Shanghai is genuinely essential to the story that's being told. And I love that feel. So I'm going to keep going, and I hope that the pieces fall into place. So the last book that I physically own from my TBR list is The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. This book just sounds like a fluffy, light read, and that is exactly what I need, especially after finishing the ACOTAR series, which was very, very long. I love that it's described as Peaky Blinders meets Bridgerton. I think that just sounds like a perfect combination. Bridgerton doesn't obviously have very high stakes, whereas Peaky Blinders does, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And I just think that this sounds like such a cozy read. In fact, I think this is probably the next book that I'll pick up, just because it's a standalone, it's nice and short, I can get through it and hopefully get over the book hangover that ACOTAR has put me in. So yeah, I think this might be next up. So aside from my physical TBR, I do have other books that I want to read but don't yet own. So I'm just kind of going to go through those. The first one that I'm going to mention is As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. So this year, one of the goals that I'm setting for myself is to explore more genres and read more just lit fic or realistic fiction than I normally do. And I'm saving this book for an emotional read, but I just thought it sounds really interesting. So the premise of the book is that we follow the main character who was studying pharmacy at university when she had to change paths and volunteer at a hospital in Syria. And essentially the main character is battling out with her emotions about whether she should stay in Syria or whether she should leave. What is the brave thing to do? What's the right thing to do? She loves her country, but it's dangerous for her and for her sister-in-law, who is pregnant with her deceased brother's child, to be there. So she's thinking about other people. In the middle of all of this, she's also falling in love. I think it's just going to be a really emotional read, but I've heard such good things about it, so I am really looking forward to picking it up on the day when I really need one of those emotional reads. So next on the list is Magnolia Parks. I don't know if you would describe this as realistic fiction, but we'll just say lit fic. This book has been pitched to me by some really close friends as being Gossip Girl meets London, and as someone who lives in London, I think that sounds amazing. From what I can tell, it also has elements of found family, so it sounds a little bit Addicted Calloway Sisters coded, which sounds amazing because I ate that series up early in the summer. So Gossip Girl, Addicted Calloway Sisters, London, it just sounds like an amazing combination. Next up, I have The Naturals, which is by the same author as The Inheritance Games. That is another series that I read earlier in the spring and I really enjoyed it. I think Jennifer Lynn Barnes is so good at writing really fast-paced mysteries with great twists and turns. What I would say is that her books don't feel very character-driven, but I didn't really mind that because she focuses so much on the plot, and her books are very fast-paced, her plot twists are so creative, and I just completely ate up that series, so I'm looking forward to another brain teaser with The Naturals. Too many books. The next book on my TBR list is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. After reading ACOTAR, I've really just been in the mood for another book about the Fae. I just love that kind of fantasy world, so I've heard really great things about this book. I know that it has a mystery element, that it has a slight romance, that it's very cozy fantasy, so it sounds like it has all of the right elements. But that it might be a little bit cozier than ACOTAR or than the Folk of the Air trilogy, lower stakes. So I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. So back in December, January-ish, I read A Touch of Darkness, which was a Persephone and Hades retelling. And basically reading that series got me back into Greek mythology in general. So I was trying to think about other Greek mythology based series that I've not yet read, and the most obvious one is Percy Jackson. I just thought that with a new TV series coming out, especially now, would be a really great time to read that series. I know that it technically is written for a much younger audience, but I'm gonna be reading it more for the plot and for catching up on whatever it is that I've missed, rather than for, you know, a high level of writing. But yeah, I'm really excited to get into that. I think I'll enjoy it because obviously it has so much hype and it must be for a reason. It's basically the equivalent of Harry Potter, but make it Greek mythology. So you really can't go wrong. Yeah. So the next book is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, and this is a horror novel. So like I said, I'm trying to branch out and read from more genres, and I don't think I've ever read a horror novel before, and certainly I haven't read very many thrillers either. So I'm hoping that if I enjoy this book, it will encourage me to read more from those genres in the future. So the book follows the main character, who is part of a research team sent out to investigate an incident that happened 7 years prior. So what was this incident? Essentially, a company hired a group of mockumentary makers to go out onto the ocean and investigate whether or not mermaids and other sea creatures of legend are real. And the ship goes missing. And aboard was the main character's sister. So she's now out on a ship herself with this research team, and she's trying to essentially answer two questions. One, what happened to her sister, and obviously where is she? And the second is whether these mythological creatures are in fact real or not. So the premise sounds very, very interesting, and I am looking forward to reading it. Again, it's something very different, but I think that will make it even more interesting. So yeah. So the final series on my TBR list is the Anne of Green Gables series, which I know, again, I should have read it years ago, but the series is such a classic that I think it'll stand the test of time, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy it anyways, even though, like I said, it's for a younger audience. I'd really like to be able to get a nice little collection for it as well to have on the shelf. I think that would be really sweet. So that rounds out my TBR list and my first video. Obviously I'm very nervous as a newbie, so if you have any suggestions for what I should read, or if you saw anything on this list and you were like, oh my gosh, you need to prioritize that, please do let me know. I'm always up for discussion, and yeah, I'm really excited for where this channel is gonna go. And yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.